Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Jaime Fuego.
We are back to continue our Predator review coverage for this week. On to Predator number 2, Fuego. This is one that is it tends to be either liked a lot or not liked nearly as much. I'm in the camp that I really enjoy it. I like that it's actually different than the Jungle one. It's not trying to be part one.
Well, it's like the concrete jungle kind of thing. Like stuff they were exploring in the comic books already. So it's still co-written by the same brothers who did the first one. So it's not like they brought in this new team aside from a different director and a different star. You know, it was the same dudes who devised, who created these characters, essentially. And so, yeah, Stephen Hopkins, who had just come off doing Nightmare 5, would go on to do The Ghost in the Darkness, which is badass. Judgment Night, which a lot of people think is like a interesting like cult classic of sorts, blown away. So yeah, he's got an interesting track record, and he brings a different aesthetic to this. Filming in a future Los Angeles, 1997. I think Turbo Kid at this point.
Yeah, it came out in 90. It was doing 1997 as the future.
Yeah, and it's got a very RoboCop kind of, so goodness, what's the one? The one with Sly Stallone. This is killing me right now. This is killing me. Demolition Man. Okay. So it's got a very Demolition Man RoboCop type vibe to it. Sorry, y'all.
Well, it's not quite as futuristic as Demolition Man.
It's not super futuristic.
It feels more like RoboCop, where it's like old Detroit.
Violent, run-down sensibilities. I mean, it's like 109 degrees in 1997, and there's war, gang riots and stuff like that. I mean, think of 1990 in LA. This is essentially fast-forwarding 7 years and what they think will happen, after seeing stuff like, the Rodney King riots and, like murders and crime and gang activity, increasing and whatnot, which it did for a while. And so, but yeah, and then we have this alien come to start killing cops, which, or actually, no, initially, the Warren gangbangers. Yeah, you got the Jamaicans versus the Latinos, basically, and yeah, it's should we just do overall thoughts and whatnot? I feel like I'm meandering. Sorry, Pete. You know what? Overall, I do really enjoy this movie, especially upon a rewatch this weekend. I don't think it's aged as well in most portions, but
there's a couple of sort of racially insensitive things.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the Jamaican crap. How much they sit. It's walking, talking stereotypes essentially in this as far as that goes, but Danny Glover's a likable hero. Something that Mahalo pointed out to me that I thought was interesting is that he's the only guy who actually hunts a predator in comparison with all these other badasses being hunted in Predators, the one that Robert Rodriguez Troublemaker Studios did in the original one. Those were big badass teams of people or people who had to come together, being hunted. This is where it ends up being a role reversal at one particular point. So I thought that was an interesting...
Well, yeah, this is just one man versus kind of thing. And how does he do it? And when he when he doesn't have mud to sling on himself and things like that.
No, not at all.
But it's also got some interesting stuff. I'm actually, like I said, I'm a fan of Predator 2. I like a lot of the additions that they made. I like a lot of the characters, even though it's dingy. It's like like you said, it's like an old Detroit and RoboCop sort of feel.
The set design is just okay, but I mean, there's good gore, and I like the performance from the ensemble. A lot of familiar faces from the era. Besides you got Bill Paxton in there and Gary Busey. So it's a fun movie. It's kind of silly at times, and it hasn't aged as well. But I don't know. As far as the ongoing evolution of this alien character that's so iconic, I do enjoy it. Not as much as the first,
I like it because it stands out for its differences, and because we got to... I don't remember as in depth of a version of this in the first one, if there was one, but when the Predator operated on itself in part 2,
where it was trying to save itself after it got its arm cut off.
No, when it got wounded and it went into the person's apartment.
And it has a little bowl, and its arm gets.
I forgot it was that insane.
The self-destruct sequence, and then Danny Glover's character slices it off, but it's pretty dope.
So it goes with one arm for the rest of the movie?
It kind of heals itself up, so to speak, and that's at the end of the movie.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when he gets injured in the middle of the movie, and he ends up breaking the mirror and bringing out his little medical kit.
It's like 2/3 through.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so he heals a wound. He doesn't. It's not his arm because he's using both hands.
No, it's his arm.
Really? It's that same part? Wow. Okay. Well, either way, I remember I like him. You know, mixing the broken mirror pieces with whatever fluid he pours on, and like doing a whole thing, creating this paste, and then he screams. So they're like us. You know, they have all of those pain receptors. If you get alcohol on a wound and things like that, I really like that sort of thing. That was a good addition. The disc is a great addition. The net that cuts through flesh is a really cool addition.
Still has his spear. Still has, you know, aforementioned self-destruct. Still has his chinky, you know, kind of his. Oh, no! Now I see. Ching, 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 ching.
Shink. I think you mean shink. Like
shink.
That's.
I was going like chingy, like the rapper. Anyway.
Okay. All right. We'll
ching,
we'll believe you.
Swing, swing.
Anyway. So yeah, he's got all those cool weapons, and there's also a good addition. I mean, if we're gonna talk about the acting a little bit, Danny Glover's great. Gary Busey shows up as this crazy guy.
He's more restrained than I remembered him being now. And
yeah, more restrained, but still, he's still so Gary though.
Yeah, well, and there's also this asshole dude who was in, he was in Independence Day, and I'm trying to remember if he was definitely one of the fighters or one of the Air Force guys or something like that. Anyway, and then you've also got this dude who was in the Television Terror episode, who was this famous asshole Ronaldo type. He plays a character in this future, you know, inflammatory news guy. He has a show called Hardcore. It's like a hard copy type show, but hardcore. And, you know, he's exposing injustices, and it's like a tabloid news show essentially. So that guy's in there. So you will recognize, I mean, and some of the other...
Bill Paxton.
Yeah, Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton with his little ball that he's throwing around.
It was nicer than I remembered him, actually. He was less scuzzy than I recalled. I mean, he starts out trying to hit on the Hispanic chick, but you end up seeing that he does have a good moral core, and there is a point where he protects a lot of characters in the subway scene.
He throws his ball at the Predator, and that's when we get the Predator's doing its coolest voice repeat of all the movies, when he goes, "Want some candy?" Yeah, I love that shit. That's so cool. He's like, you see him like going towards him like huge, and you just hear, "Want some candy?" It's like the coolest juxtaposition. I love that part. So yeah, the subway massacre is a great scene. There's a lot of really great scenes. Of course, we have to talk about
the meat locker too, the big huge meat place where, you know,
when he throws the disc and it like cuts all those meat things, and then Gary Busey. Well, whatever. Spoilers for 1990.
Yeah, it's a 28-year-old film at this point.
But again, we have to mention the really cool bit that they did. That was our soupçon of what we were having to come with the Alien vs. Predator crossover.
Oh, the end scene?
Yeah,
the trophy case?
When Danny Glover talks or, you know, goes to confront the Predator in the ship, we get to see the trophy case that has creatures, but namely an alien skull.
Yeah, and a lot of people did not know that Dark Horse had just put out a comic book crossing over the characters for the first time, like just a little before this film came out, and so there were people losing their shizzle, man, like going crazy for, you know, a presumed big screen crossover, which didn't come for, it was like, what, like 15 years maybe, at least 15, 13 years, something like that. Well over a decade. Not until the 2000s did we finally get an Alien vs. Predator film. But you know, if we're gonna jump from the acting, which we said was, you know, fun, kind of campy at times, but, you know, still good, I want to talk about some of the effects, man, because it's not maybe as violent as the previous one, but the points that are violent, most notably when Rastafarian Jamaican guy gets his head cut off, and then there's the whole thing done where you see I'm trying to remember if it's for the first time or not, because once again the movies are melding together after just watching them this weekend, but the whole carrying around the skull with the connected spine and just like swooping it over your back and stuff, and that's a bit that is, they come back to in the comic books over and over. They do it in the Predators film, you know, which is pretty cool.
I'm sure we'll get it in the new one too.
Boy,
although what I'm assuming is we're going to get the Predator's spine pulled out this time by the bigger one.
By the super Predator.
Yeah. That would be cool to see.
The ultimate Predator, as they're calling it.
The Predator's you know, skull and everything underneath. That'd be pretty cool. We haven't seen that before.
Well, they've done it in the promotional material.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you see a Predator hand carrying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
with the,
that's right.
Spine.
Yeah, but it's not the face; it's the mask, right?
It's the
mask.
Yeah, that's the mask, correct. But yeah, so that's a dope bit, and we see more skinned people again. So that's, you know, something that it's a calling card of the Predator where that drug lord guy is like getting down with the chick, and then all the Jamaicans come in and they're like, no, we're gonna sacrifice you. It's voodoo shit, man. And that's where it goes into just stereotype and stuff. It's like, this was written by two white guys, right? Yeah.
And again, the
and
effects...
it's being talked about by two white guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the effects of the scene where he heals himself, those are all great effects too. Like, there's so much cool stuff. And
also, once again, just the look of the cloaking. It looks even a little bit better because 3 years have gone by in between this and the previous Predator movie, and they've almost upped the appearance with him cycling through the different viewpoints for the heat signatures, and there's
there's a bunch of different
colorization.
Ones.
Yeah, there's like blue and greenish and different. So I mean, it does feel like a sequel where they did something different as opposed to trying to recapture the initial magic of the first one. They tried to go bigger and crazier and different, and in some ways they succeeded, perhaps not in others. They bring back the same score from the first one. They open up the movie with it, so maybe not as much branching out right there, but all the signature like audio cues and stuff that made the first one so iconic, they return here.
Well, and this also starts the trend that at least is repeated in Predators, and actually probably in the AVP ones too, where a bunch of other Predators show up at the end to pick up
at the very end.
to pick up the fallen one. Like that happens in Predators, right? That happens in one of the AVP ones.
First AVP, yeah, where they give the girl the
respect, and they
kind
give
of like in the comic book, where they, except in the comic book they take the girl with them, and she gets her own Predator armor and everything. It's badass.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this one a lot. It's
fun. I don't think it's quite as good, but I appreciate that they did something different.
It continues, yeah. So it continues, but still alters a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't elevate per se, but it does make it for its own enjoyable thing. So, why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below what you thought of Predator 2? We greatly appreciate all of you patrons that support the channel. The link to our Patreon is in the description box down below. We put up quite a bit of actual stuff up on Patreon that you won't see on here for a good while. So, thank you to you guys, and until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias a Jaime and Fuego!
Remember, stay scared.